Welcome to today's episode of the J&J Podcast. I'm Jamie.
This is Jameson.
We want to welcome all of our listeners in. We realize that March is over, but there's still quite a bit of madness going on at the beginning of April. And we're going to get into some of those topics today. But speaking of March Madness, we're going to start off with our first topic about college basketball today, the NCAA championships. And Jamison, won't you start us off with the ladies? UConn defeating South Carolina. Tell me your thoughts about that.
Yeah, first off, I'm going to say, we were right about the two teams that were actually in the national championship game on the women's side. We picked UConn and South Carolina to win. They did so. Unfortunately, I picked South Carolina to win. I still don't feel bad about my pick. I'm just got to honestly just tip my hat off, tip my cap off, and just give a whole lot of credit to UConn. They came out, they played a really physical style of basketball. Honestly, they forced South Carolina to kind of be flustered. South Carolina really couldn't hit any perimeter shots in the first half. And between Paige Beckers, Fudd, and then Sarah Strong, that three-headed monster right there, it was going to be tough to beat. They had it rolling. Even you had players like KK Arnold coming in, just giving them really solid minutes off the bench. Just overall, huge shout out to UConn. And I will say this, as much as I wanted South Carolina to win, I'm a huge Paige Beckers fan. So given all that she went through at UConn, tearing her ACL, coming back, and then it just, ended off with a national championship. As much as it pains me that South Carolina lost and I felt really bad for Dawn Staley, I was, in spite of all that, really happy for Paige Beckers. So, just overall shout out to UConn Huskies, man. And I'm going to say this. Gino Auriemma, that brother's a monster. He just got it, man. He clean.
Yeah. I will say this about South Carolina. We both agreed that South Carolina would get there, but the truth of the matter is we weren't sure because this might have been, but from my perspective, it's probably Dawn Staley's best coaching job when you consider the players that she actually lost. She lost Watson, to the injury. And you're basically starting two freshmen in as your center.
Yeah.
So I mean, they were kind of flip flopping.
Yeah.
It was,
yes, sir.
back and forth. I will say this: Joyce Edwards, boy, future is bright.
Yeah, she's tough.
She's tough. And Fagan, I mean, what can you say? She battled, but the truth of the matter is that was a very, very good coaching job, and it was an uphill climb because. The fact that they made it there, they struggled in a couple of games, they found a way. Don Staley is the GOAT, regardless, in my opinion. And so I will say this, and I don't know if he was throwing shade when he made some comments. Gino Auriemma, of course, has been all over social media about, in some places they put statues up when somebody, wins a championship. He was like, it's expected here. And I don't know if that was shade. And if he's talking about Asia Wilson, obviously you haven't been paying attention, Gino.
Well, Asia Wilson, the best player in the WNBA right now. So
thank you. Yeah, exactly. So hopefully that's not what he was referring to. I've heard, mixed reviews about whether or not he was, trying to throw shade. Regardless, good win for them. To your point, I'm happy for Paige Beckers. But Don Staley will be back. I mean, they already started the reloading process.
They already got what's her name in the transfer portal, which was huge. I forgot her name. I saw that yesterday.
From Florida State.
Yeah, she's tough.
She was the leading scorer.
They'll still have Full Wiley. Tessa Johnson's coming back. Joyce Edwards,
Raven
like you
Johnson,
said.
I think, is now coming back because they were on the same AAU team together.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and she said, "Let's run it. Let's run it.
They're gonna be right back next year. It's just like, and here's what I'll say. Dawn Staley is very strategic with the moves that she making and how she builds her rosters. So it's like, even going into next season, it might not be the flashiest team on paper, which, with all the names we just named, they will still be one of the top teams. But they always compete. Sometimes it's not always about all the talent you get; it's how they actually mesh and play together.
That's right.
So, and Dawn Staley's a mastermind of that. So, and here's what I'll say too. Even going back to
her name was Tanaya Latson. That's what you're talking about.
Appreciate that. And then going back to what you said about South Carolina even kind of overachieving in a sense, it's like, I'm gonna be honest, because I picked them to win. If USC, if Juju Watkins didn't get hurt, I genuinely
Oh,
think USC would have beat UConn, and then they would have mollywopped South Carolina in the championship. If I'm just being
agreed.
honest. So
Yep.
to your point, it's like they really did overachieve, in my opinion. Um, and Don will be back. I'm not concerned about that. To your point.
Yep. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, moving on to the men's side, Florida beat Houston. I have mixed feelings about that. I'll let you start because we did predict that it would be Florida and Houston.
Yeah, we did.
Um, Part of it was we were hoping that Houston was going to beat Duke, but the way that Houston actually beat Duke was incredible. So, but we did actually call it. We said it was going to be Florida and Houston, and I know I chose with my heart who I actually wanted to win, and that was Houston. But shout out to Florida. Tell me your thoughts about how that game went because I certainly have an opinion.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I was upset on multiple fronts. First of all, I'm in a bracket group and I had Houston winning it all. If they won that game, I'm up some Benny Franks. So first off, I'm very upset about that. Um, Second thing is, man, I was really rooting for Kelvin Sampson. Like I really genuinely thought that this was his year. It's like for the past 5 or 6 years, it's like he's always so close and could just never get over that hump and actually win. And it was no
Yep.
different this year. And the unfortunate part about it is, it's like it's gonna be hard to make it back next year. Like
Yep.
especially with everything that's going on so far in the transfer portal, and you know how the whole landscape of college basketball is changing every day. It seems like now. I'm not saying he can't get back, but genuinely, I feel like that was his best shot to win. And I mean, to be up 12 points in that game, like I was feeling comfortable, man. I had my popcorn on the couch, just I was feeling like $1 million, and then I literally was pinching pennies at the end of that game. Like it's very unfortunate. But I will say this: I gotta give credit to Houston because honestly, that last 6 or 7 minutes of that game, Houston's offense really became stagnant. There was no movement. There were no screens being set, no off ball movement, like nothing being ran, like no really solid offensive sets. And then on the flip side, Florida was getting what they wanted in transition. They were running a lot of horns and floppy actions on offense, getting wide open looks, and they were able to convert and ultimately come back and win that game. And then the last thing I'm gonna say is the last two quick things. A lot of people are blaming Emmanuel Sharp for that kerfuffle at the end of the game. But here's what I'm gonna say: it's one mistake. You can't put all of the blame on him. It's like, bruh, y'all were up 12 points in the national championship game with a little over 5 minutes to go. And here's the last thing I'm gonna say too: no team in a national championship setting, if you turn the ball over 3 out of your four last possession of the game, that's not winning basketball. Like that's not a winning recipe. Like, and in my eyes, they literally played just how like Duke played against them. They literally did
Yep.
that against Florida. It's like, bro, you sold the lead. Like you got too comfortable. You stopped running your sets and doing what it made you
What
successful.
had gotten
Actually,
you there?
exactly. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they just started trying to play different than how they had been. Because that first half, that's what was impressive about Houston. They couldn't shoot threes. I think they hit like one or two threes in that first half. It's like they were shooting abysmal from the floor and from beyond the arc, and they were still up at halftime. So I felt really good about things, but it was just a bad collapse, man. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I felt bad for Kelvin Sampson, especially how the game ended by not even getting a shot off. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, Sharp actually, I mean, it was he compounded the turnover that he lost when the ball rode off of his leg. He compounded that by not even getting a shot up, and I was just honestly baffled at the fact that Cryer got very few looks
Yeah, I was
in that.
disappointed in that.
Yeah, I mean, like in the last 10 minutes of the game, this is the dude who honestly, kept you in the game at Duke, kept you in the game in the first half of this one, and then kind of got you the lead, and then you just honestly just go away from him. So I didn't
He
understand
was their
that, and it
Walter
wasn't
Clayton, and it's like you
right.
went away from him.
Exactly. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, it's not like they were double teaming him every time he got the ball or anything like that. It wasn't that their defense was so good that he wasn't getting the ball or having an opportunity to score. It's just that it seemed as though he wasn't getting the ball. They weren't running sets to make sure he got the ball.
Exactly.
Um, and I think relying on Sharp too much down the stretch is honestly what hurt them because I know he's comfortable having the ball, but Cryer looked way more comfortable. That's he's built for those kinds of moments, and they didn't take advantage of his skill set down the stretch. So, shout out. Now I will say this, you were saying how hard it's going to be. I know it's some folks call it the way too early top 25 for next year. A lot of folks already have Houston Steel as the number one team coming heading into next year.
Which is good. It's hard, man. It's similar to how it is in the NFL trying to make the Super Bowl. It's like,
yes,
when you get there, like prime example was the Panthers. They made it in 2016. They ain't even sniffed the playoffs since.
Well, a prime example is Duke.
True.
All this, yeah, they haven't been back to the championship game in more than 10 years.
Yeah.
So
no, that's a fact.
And that's with supposedly some of the best talent.
Facts.
But we'll see. I mean, I think he'll replenish where he needs to through the transfer portal now that some things are opening up, and we'll see. I like Kelvin Sampson. Obviously, I think however the team ends up, they're going to end up back in the NCAA, and who knows what'll happen then, because their style of play. If he goes to get a couple of additional shooters who aren't streaky shooters, but who are just flat out bona fide shooters, then they have a good chance of at least getting deep into the tournament next year. So we'll see. Completely shifting gears to the NBA. Jamison, the Cavs have already clinched the number one seed in the East, and the Rockets clinched the number 2 seed. We already know OKC has the number 1 seed. So why don't we start there with the Cavs clinching the number 1 seed and what you think their chances are out of the East?
No, I got to give a huge shout out to Kenny Atkinson. He's done a phenomenal job. And here's what I'm going to say. That's the team that has the biggest threat, in my opinion, to actually beat Boston. I know New York is starting to pick it up towards the end of the season. Milwaukee's looked good their last couple of games down the stretch, even without having Damian Lillard. But the Cavs, just matchup-wise, if Darius Garland can come to play in that playoff series whenever they match up, I already know Donovan Mitchell's going to come to play. But I think between Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, like, they can genuinely beat the Celtics, because one thing the Celtics have shown, they can beat any team in the NBA, and on some nights they have lapses they can also lose to any team that's going to be in the playoffs as well. So out East, really, like, I'm rooting for the Cavs. I feel like this is their year. Similar to a Houston, it's like, if you're going to actually make it out the East this year, now is your chance. So huge shout out to the Cavs and what they've been able to do this season.
I completely agree. Kenny Atkinson has that's a masterclass.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they were, last year they looked like a team who had the tools, had the parts, but they didn't know how to. Number one, they didn't necessarily know how to play together, and then secondly, they didn't know how to win together.
Facts.
And I think that matters. And I think what he's instilled in them is, obviously, over during the offseason, they learned how to play together, and now they're learning how to win together. And I think they've pretty much figured out how to win together.
Facts.
And so I think that is a recipe for them being very, very dangerous out of the East. I think that there is a strong possibility because let's just be honest, you can, as good as the Celtics are, they also sometimes can be injury ridden. And
facts. And I didn't even mention that addition that they made of getting DeAndre Hunter. That's huge. That's huge. Somebody that can guard Tatum or Jaylen Brown and also force them to have to play defense. He's a perfect fit.
That's exactly right. And I'm telling you, the DeAndre Hunter that I'm seeing in Cleveland was the DeAndre Hunter that I wanted on my fantasy team when he was still in Atlanta.
Yep.
This past season. But I digress. But to your point, I think that they're the team. I think that sometimes, you just don't know when Kristaps is going to be available. Facts. You just really don't.
Facts.
And so he could potentially be the X factor. I mean, in that one game when he scored 18 in the first quarter?
Yeah, against the Mavs last year in the finals.
Against the Mavs. And everybody was like, well, where did this come from? Because, we know what he can do, but it's the best of it. The best ability is availability. Boy, let me try that again. The best ability is availability. And so it'll be interesting to see. But I like Cleveland's chances out of the East. I really, really do. So I mentioned too the Rockets clinching the number 2 seed. Let's talk about why. And I know I think I'm probably getting ahead of what we had planned to discuss, Jameson, but why not? The Rockets clinched the number 2 seed. Let's talk about why the Rockets clinched the number 2 seed last night. You know what? I'm gonna let you have it
Sure.
because I'm just gonna let you have it. I'm gonna sit back for a couple of minutes because I know you have lots to say. So,
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Here's what I'm gonna say, man. And first off, huge shout out to the Lakers for being OKC in OKC this past Sunday. And honestly, I'm very upset because we had a chance to beat them 2 times in a row in OKC last night. It was absolute malpractice what the referees did last night. That one referee in particular, in that OKC Lakers matchup last night. Just to put into perspective, there was about 6.5 minutes left in that game. 6.5, 7 minutes left in that game. The Lakers are up 120 to 118. It was either 120, 118 or 120, 119. We were, to put into perspective, we were winning that game. Luka Doncic, he had already gotten a technical foul earlier on in that game. He ends up getting a bucket. As he's walking down the floor, he ends up chirping back and forth with one of the fans. Because these fans nowadays say whatever they please. They think just because they can buy a ticket, they can just utter absolute nonsense to the players. So, knowing Luka Doncic, he's a very competitive player. We've seen him do it before. He starts chirping back to the fan. The referee then thinks that Luka Doncic is talking to him and tees him up. He's ejected from the game. You already lose any momentum that you have. Luka Doncic was arguably the best player on the entire court last night, including SGA. Then after that, the very next play down, I forgot who drove to the basket. Jared Vanderbilt gets a block. They then call a technical foul on him. So then that also, all the momentum that you have gets halted again. Then the very next offensive play down the court, Al-Sharif shoots a jump shot. It's clearly foul. Like, honestly, it could have been first degree murder the way that brother was fouled, and they didn't call it. So then any momentum that you have at that point
Not
is complete.
first degree murder. Oh my God.
I'm telling you, any momentum that you had at that point was completely gone. And then we end up losing by double digits. And you know what sucks about that loss? Us losing that game last night literally clinched the number 2 seed for the Houston Rockets. So, like I said, I genuinely think that the Lakers are going to end up getting the 3rd seed, which is great. But now, instead of potentially playing Minnesota in the first round or whoever ends up getting the 7th seed, we're pretty much more than likely going to end up facing the Golden State Warriors. And then, to make matters worse, and I hate when the NBA does this crap, tell me why about an hour ago the NBA they announced that they've rescinded that second technical foul that was assessed to Luka Doncic last night after further review. I'm like, bruh, it's a makeup call, but my thing is
nothing.
It does absolutely nothing to your point. It's like literally like you did us greasy. And any chance that we had at the 2nd seed was completely halted last night. And it was all because the ref wanted to make it about himself. And here's what I'll say going forward. That referee, I don't know his exact name, but he should never be able to referee a Laker game again because it seemed personal to me. Shout out Michael Jordan. It became personal for me. That's how that referee was last night.
JT Orr, that's his name.
Yep.
JT Orr. And the JT doesn't stand for Justin Timberlake. Yeah. Anyway. I don't, there's no need for me to go in because if I go in, I might not come out.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go in. Yeah. Everything that you just said, I honestly don't have a whole lot to add. It was ridiculous. And based on what Vanderbilt had to say afterwards, he said based on what he heard, he knew that it was personal for the referee.
Yeah.
So yeah, this whole it's all about me ego thing with some of these referees. And Adam Silver wonders why viewership is down in the NBA. This is one of the reasons why.
Yep.
What happened last night is one of the reasons why viewership is down because the officiating has been horrendous.
They make it about themselves too much.
That's right. It has been god awful. Some of the officiating that I've seen, and that was some of the most egregious that I'd seen. John Ireland was calling the game last night. He was like, "You can't do that. Like, what are you thinking in that moment?" And then to give another tech to Vanderbilt over some silliness. I mean, come on, man. You made it all about you. And you know what? to your point, he should not be allowed to officiate any more Lakers games for the rest of his life.
Dad, you know what I'm gonna say? Maya Moore, Tupac Shakur, JT Orr, Lakers in 5.
I like that. Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, Jordan Childs, Lakers in 5. So, all right, I'm gonna mention one brief thing. We can take literally 30 seconds. Suns are out of playoff contention. Go.
Yeah, KD's done with the Suns. And I'm going to say this. I hope he goes somewhere. You know, I kept saying the Houston Rockets. At this point, if I'm the Denver Nuggets, and we'll get to them in a second, they might need to try to make a move for KD. But I think he's gone. And, boy, I think I said a couple episodes ago, I hope Devin Booker gets traded as well. I want to see that brother paired up with Cade Cunningham and that Pistons monster.
Yeah, that would be nasty.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a lot to say. That might be the worst trio of, super team on a super team that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say,
and I'm gonna be honest. Bradley Beal should be on the FBI's most wanted list because he's a jewel thief. That brother is literally stealing money.
Bradley Beal should be looking at how much money he can make next year playing for the Guangdong Tigers. Because
Ni hao.
I mean, seriously, like he is. He might be more of a thief than Chandler Parsons, and that's saying a lot.
No, I'm telling you,
that's saying a lot. Because back then they didn't have the salaries hadn't gone up quite as much as they have now. But Chandler Parsons stole a whole bunch of money.
But the fact that Bradley Beal is making $50+ million for the next couple of seasons is just
incredible.
And I'm gonna be honest, his agent Michael Jordan. Because the fact that this brother has a no trade clause, I'm gonna be honest, him and Young Thug's lawyer, they Jordan. Because I don't know how they do. I don't know how these brothers make it happen. But the fact that he's getting $50+ million for the next 2 seasons, and he has a no trade clause, that's crazy.
Listen, Johnny Cochran must be his name.
It gotta be.
My God. That is wild. I simply don't understand. And then I think they actually said, would he be interested in, being traded? And he was like, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm staying right
here. He gets to live in Phoenix, Arizona, making $50+ million a year. You darn skippy, he's fine.
Yeah, of course he's fine. I wouldn't be going anywhere. Not at all. So anyway, speaking of dumpster fires, yeah, what a segue.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mike Malone and Calvin Booth both got fired.
I'm still shocked.
What in the world?
Yeah, it's like that Boondocks meme.
What in the Nico Harris is going on?
What did he do to make them brothers that mad? Because Here's what I'm going to say. First off, I think the whole NBA world, people on Twitter, analysts, the whole nine are still shocked because, first off, the Nuggets are in the 5th seed right now. Like, I get it. They've been on a bad losing streak, and it all kind of started when they had that loss to Minnesota. That was a bad loss. But to fire your head coach and your GM with 3 games left in the season, it just makes absolutely no sense on the outside looking in. And I've heard people say, well, maybe they want to make the move now to like kind of light a fire with the team. I'm like, I feel like that's going to do the opposite. Like, basically what ownership is telling the players is this season's a wash. And it's wild to say that because it's like they're in the 5th seed. Nikola Jokic in some people's eyes is the most valuable player. Like, you literally just fight and think most people don't realize this. Michael Malone is the only coach that Nikola Jokic has had because Michael Malone has been there 10 years. And this is also a coach that literally the Nuggets won the NBA championship 2 years ago. I just don't understand how you fire a coach with 3 games left in the season when you're in the 5th seed. You potentially have a chance to be the 4th seed by the end of the season. It's malpractice. And what it shows me too is there's really no loyalty in the NBA. So that's why when people complain about, oh, well, the players have too much say and the players keep switching teams, people got to do what's best for them at the end of the day. Because it's like, if you're going to treat Michael Malone, and I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Malone. I think he is a really good coach, though, and it's like, it speaks for itself. I mean, the brother won a championship in Denver. That's the only championship they won in their entire franchise history. But for you to fire a coach like that and the GM, that's bad ball. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm still baffled, and I'm trying to figure out like what the thought process was. I mean, you're hearing certain things like people were tired of him, his temper tantrums. They were tired of him playing, Russell Westbrook over some of the younger guys. Jokic supposedly was upset because the defense wasn't good. Now, here's the thing. I'm just gonna say this: if that's true, and Jokic is upset,
with all due respect, Jokic can't complain about defense. Sorry,
well,
brother.
that's what I listen. If he's the one who's complaining, then he needs an 8-foot mirror in his house, and he needs to just stand in front of it for a few hours. Because, brother, you don't play defense. So if that's true, and I'm prefacing it by saying if that part of it, if that rumor is true that he's upset about the defense, you're part of the problem.
I watched the game the other night, and it was like, and here's what I'll say, because
listen. We're going to talk about Luka versus the Mavs in just a few minutes. Yeah. Luka's starting to improve, but those are two brothers who cannot complain about anything.
They can't complain about no defense.
Like, seriously.
And here's what I'll say. I've watched their last couple games, like the Nuggets, at least their last 3 games, and it's just honestly been a lack of effort on the defensive side. And I get it. Like, they've been without Jamal Murray. Like, they've had some injuries, hurt that team this year. But here's what I'm going to also say as well. If I'm the Denver Nuggets, man, they really got to get it together quick because Jokic is 30. And at some point, it's like he's got to do what's best for him and his future. It's like he can't keep putting up Wilt-type numbers every game and you're losing. It's like, in my opinion, they have enough assets. They need to go out there and try to just surround his team because, be honest, Jamal Murray steps up in the playoffs, but like Jokic is really making up for a lot of like the deficiencies that are currently on that team. Like, people don't put enough stock in. After they won the championship, you lose KCP, you lose Bruce Brown, you lose Jeff Green, and you don't do anything to replace these guys. You bring in Russell Westbrook, it's like, that's a good piece, but that's not winning you a championship. And Jamal Murray has not been that good this regular season. Christian Brown has taken that next step. But then also, too, it's like somebody like Michael Porter Jr. It's like he's either got it going or he's completely cold or hurt. And then Aaron Gordon, he's had a really good year, but he can't stay healthy. So it's like at some point, it's like you literally have the best player in basketball. You got to give him a little bit more talent, in my opinion. And it's like, it's wild for me to say that for Jokic, but this brother is putting up 60, 40, and 14, and 10 and losing games. That's unacceptable.
Well, but when Jamal Murray is hurt half the season or hurt almost, every other week, it seems like, or at least every other month, and he's inconsistent. He only plays good when he plays the Lakers. Let's just be honest. And then, you to your point, Michael Porter Jr. in my opinion, hasn't taken that next step.
I agree.
He is what he's going to be at this point. I don't see him. It's obvious to me that he's not trying to add different parts to his game. He's mostly a spot-up shooter more than anything.
On offense.
Yep, and let's just be honest. Them losing KCP was huge.
Him and Bruce Brown, that was huge because those were two of the most important players on that championship team.
Because you sacrifice defense by those guys leaving.
And Dad, let me give you a quick stat real quick. This is just something that's wild to me. I thought about it today. I'm going to name you the last 6 NBA coaches, like NBA head coaches that won the NBA championship, and 4 out of 6 of them lost their job. Joe Mazzulla won last year. He's still in a job. Michael Malone, they won in 2023. He just got fired. Steve Kerr, the Warriors won in 2022. He still has his job. Mike Budenholzer won in 2021 with the Bucks. He lost his job. He might lose his job now with the Suns. Frank Vogel, he won it for the Lakers in 2020, immediately got fired. And then Nick Nurse won it with the Raptors in 2019 and lost his job. So, like I said earlier, at this point, players and now coaches alike, they got to do what's best for them. And here's the last thing I'm going to say about Michael Malone. I'm already hearing rumors and reports because he comes from that Greg Popovich tree monster as far as coaching is concerned. If the San Antonio Spurs manage to get him, that franchise is going to be all right for the next couple of years. I'm going to just put it that way.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Now, here's what I will say very quickly. And I guess if the rumors are true about it being about the defense for Jokic, did you see, or at least it's circulating on social media, that Darvin Ham might be the front runner?
Ain't no way.
I'm serious. That's what.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I hope that happens because Nikola Jokic, welcome to the Lakers, brother.
Yeah, I
Welcome,
saw that speculation too. That we have
welcome.
the Lakers have the best chance of getting him. So yeah, that would be quite interesting if that were to happen. So speaking of the Lakers, they play the Mavs tonight. Luka will be heading back to Dallas, and I'm just curious your thoughts with the fact that the Lakers didn't rest last night. I honestly thought that they would have. But they didn't rest last night. I wonder how that's going to affect them tonight. Now, regardless, I think Luka's going to try to go for 50.
I agree. And here's what I'll
You know,
say. This could be one of those games where LeBron gets to rest more. I know they haven't been playing Rui Hachimura in back-to-back, so more than likely he'll play tonight because he didn't play in OKC last night. But this could be a game where, honestly, it's just the Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic show. I think this is one of those games where, like, LeBron can do more facilitating, stagger his minutes some, give somebody like DFS a little bit more burn, Jordan Goodwin. But I think Luka's going to just – I think they're just going to give him the green light, the gun, in my opinion. And here's what I'll say. I'm expecting at least 35-plus points from Luka Doncic tonight. I feel like anything less would kind of be a disappointment, and that's wild me saying that. But I think he's going to give it to them. And here's also to add insult to injury. Pause on that. No Diddy. But here's what I was also going to say to add insult to injury. I feel bad for the Mavericks because he's already probably livid given what happened last night in OKC. So the fact that you already head into the game hating the Mavericks, and now given the crap that happened with the JT Orr last night in OKC, I expect Luka to go crazy. And I will say this last thing I'm gonna say, I think Anthony Davis is gonna have a really good game as well.
that's what I was about to say. On the flip side of that, I was about to say Anthony Davis might also see this as an opportunity. Like both of them, I expect Luka to have a 35-point triple double.
I love it.
That's really what I expect, and I expect Anthony Davis to probably have a 30 or 35-point double double. I see it, and he might have 35 and 20 tonight. It could be something crazy like that. So it's going to be absolute cinema.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. So, all right. Well, we're gonna wrap up this week's episode with what we typically do, and that's moving the needle. Jameson, you go first. What's your moving the needle for this week?
Yeah, my moving the needle is they announced the Hall of Fame, the 2025 Basketball Hall of Fame class. Shout out to Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Sue Bird, Sylvia Fowles, who I think is the best female to ever touch a basketball. That Maya Moore monster.
Yes, she. That's so. Okay. I also think didn't we find out today too? I think it came out today that Julio Jones was retiring.
Yeah, it was like 2 days ago. It was either yesterday or
So
the
that's
day before that. But
yeah,
yeah,
I think it was yesterday.
also shout out to Julio Jones. It still hurts me to this day that he never got that Super Bowl because
Yeah,
that Matt Ryan monster, that Dan Quinn
absolutely.
monster. Yeah.
All right. Well, my moving the needle is, of course, you guys know that I'm a Tar Heels, UNC Tar Heels homer. So I want to spend literally about 30 seconds talking about the transfer portal. We got our secured our big Henri Vesar. We have the big that everybody's been talking about, and now everybody's up in arms. What are we gonna do about a point guard? What are we gonna do about a point guard? Like, can we let that marinate for like a day, 5 minutes?
Facts.
Is that possible? However, with that said, Seth Trimble is coming back. I think that is huge. To have that guy back as one of your glue guys, plays defense, is a Carolina guy. Really has started at the end of last year showing leadership. You could tell in some of those games where we didn't play well, he was holding dudes accountable. He's going to have that role that we've always had at Carolina, where there's a senior who kind of becomes the leader. So I'm happy to have him back. And then the point guard situation, I think it's about to work itself out. There's some folks visiting this weekend, not just the point guard, but also guard and wing positions that may be getting figured out literally over the course of the weekend or by the end of the week. So there are some visits that are taking place that have actually been announced. And then there are a couple of other point guards that apparently are drawing interest from Carolina. Xavier Lee at Princeton, and also I think his name is K. I forget his first name, Cayenne Evans from Colorado State.
Yeah.
That's who either of those two, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest with you. And I know Trey Holloman is visiting this weekend, so we'll see how that all plays out. And then Catchings, Cannon
Yeah.
Catchings, who
I hope we
is
get him.
related to Tamika. So obviously the DNA is there. Um, and it seems as though there's also a connection there because Jim Tanner was Tamika Catchings' agent at one point. Yeah. So there's lots of activity. You know, what I'm learning is sometimes the quiet doesn't mean nothing, that there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
It just means that Carolina's doing it quietly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think fans, because of how the season ended and how last year went, fans are anxious. I get that. I understand the angst. And I wouldn't begrudge anyone who's, concerned about what the Tar Heels are doing. But we got Andre Vassar and we also got Powell. So I think that, some patience now. We've not been able to get that coveted big for a while. So the
Facts.
fact that we have him, I think everything else will fall in place. We can build around that. And I honestly think, we recognize that this is a make or break season for Hubert Davis. At least I think it is. But I think that they're making the right moves and they're also being diligent with how they go about finding the talent. So it'll be fun to see how things pan out, see how things happen over the weekend, because I expect there to be some announcements over the weekend. So it'll be fun to see all that pan out.
Definitely.
Yep. So, all right, that's our episode for this week. Want to thank everybody for listening once again to the J&J podcast. Same bat time